Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today is my March wrap-up, and this is going to be the last time for at least a few months that I do a monthly wrap-up. I'm going to try just doing weekly wrap-ups where I try to vlog as many books as possible, and if I can't vlog them all, I'm still going to talk about the books that I read that week by week. It is just a little much for me to try to remember what to talk about for all of these books because I do read quite a few books a month by the end of the month, and then these videos just end up being really long. So for today though, I'm going to do what I normally do, or I have been doing, and that is I'm going to quickly go through the books that were in vlogs, just give you my ratings, and then we'll go through the books that weren't a little bit more in detail. But the first thing I'll talk about is stats for the month. I read 23 books, 10 fantasy, 8 romance, 2 thriller, 2 sci-fi, and 1 literary fiction. So that was a pretty successful month, I think. But without much further ado, I'm going to try to do this video without having to edit it too much. So I'm going to try to just move through this quickly. But we'll start with the first vlog that I did this month, which was just a series vlog. Most of these books that you're going to see are in series because that was the point of March. The first vlog I did, I started with The Darkness Within Us by Tricia Levenseller. Second book in the Little Shadows Between Us duology. I enjoyed this. I liked this little duology. It makes me want to read more from her. I think she has another book coming out this year, so I am looking forward to that. More thoughts, obviously, in that vlog, but I gave this 4 stars. Then I read The Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. This is the second book in the Brutal Birthright series, kind of a dark romance, mafia-esque kind of books. This was a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I enjoyed this one as well. 3.5 stars, decent rating. I don't consider a 3-star, 3.5-star bad ratings. I think a 3-star is an average book. That is what I look at. If it's below average, you'll see me rate it 1 or 2. I don't really ever rate books 1, but I'm just prefacing that because I think a lot of people think a 3-star book maybe is a bad one. It's not. It's an average book for me. Then I read Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Renegades trilogy, and I really enjoyed this. I liked this more than Renegades, and that makes me very excited to go into Supernova, hopefully in the month of April. So I gave this 4.25 stars. Then I read the second book in the Dirty Diana series, Diana in Love. This is kind of a literary fiction, women's fiction. It's called like erotic fiction. Very interesting storyline. I'm very excited to see where the third book goes and just how this all wraps up. That book's coming out in a few months as well. Also 4.25. And then I finished up that vlog with A Whisper in the Walls by Scott Rentigen. This is the second book in the Waxway series by him. It's like a YA mystery, fantasy, romance series. It has kind of a little bit of all of those genres in it. Really enjoy this. It is a fantasy world, so there are mythical beings and stuff like that. This got more into the relationships between the characters now that the world's been built, and there is one more book left in this. So I'm hoping to read that this year, but maybe like as a Libby loan because I want the paperback one and that's not out yet. So 4 stars. Then the next vlog I did was for like St. Patrick's Day. I read Nora Roberts' entire Irishborn trilogy, and I'm just going to talk about it as one. I read the bind up. It is 3 books: Born in Fire, Born in Ice, Born in Shamed. I really enjoyed this series. Go watch that vlog if you haven't yet, if you want more thoughts on it. I love Nora Roberts' writing. Overall, I gave this 4.25 stars. If I were to combine what I would rate all of them. I liked the third one the most, I think. I don't know. I really don't know which one I liked the most. I can't remember what I said on the blog. I liked them all, but for their own reasons. Then I did my Kindle vlog, which I started with Ricochet by Kristen Becker-Ritchie, which is the second book in the Addicted series, which is the beginning of the whole like Addicted Calloway Sister series universe. And I did enjoy this one more than the first one. This was kind of a test to see if I wanted to continue this series, and I did like it enough to continue on. I think the storyline's building, and I want to see the other 2 couples when eventually we get to them. So I gave this a 3.75. Then I read Fated Throne, which is the 6th book in the Zodiac Academy series, and I gave this 5 stars. This was the first 5 stars I've had in this series. I think that the storyline, the plot, it just took off. The characters, things are starting to go in the direction I want. I know that it's going to be more pain because I do know a few things that haven't happened yet that do happen, just because spoilers have escaped. But I'm still excited to see how I don't know how it all wraps up. I know things that happened before that, but first 5 stars of the series. And then I finish off with Rivaled Crown, which is the third and final book in Holly Renee's The Veiled Kingdom series. I enjoyed it. Definitely, I think that it started off stronger. The trilogy as a whole started off stronger for me than it ended, but still enjoyed it. Still would recommend it if you want like a quick, pretty easy to understand fantasy read. I gave it 3.5 stars. Then the final vlog was another series vlog, and they were all second books in series that I'm reading. I think so were the first. I think the first vlog was as well. I started that off with The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. Really enjoyed this book. I love Christina Forrest's writing. I like how she writes her romances. This was just a fun, good, quick time, and that's what I look for in my romance books, so I really enjoyed this. And I'm excited to see where the next book goes, but this was a 4-star. Then I read Golden Sun by Pierce Brown, second book in the Red Rising original trilogy, and I adored this book. Watch the vlog if you want more thoughts. I'm so excited to get into Morningstar, which is the final book in the original trilogy, just to see where things go. And I did see today that there is going to be, I forget what they call it, but it's like the second part of Red Rising is 4 books, and Red God is supposed to come out sometime within the next year. I don't know exactly when, but very excited. This was a 5-star read for me. Loved it. Then I read King of Pride by Anna Huang. This is the second book in her Kings of Sin series. And these are also kind of like billionaire, slightly morally gray character romances. I really liked the main male character in this book. I liked this storyline. I liked where he stood with his relationship with her and like standing up for her and everything. Really enjoyed it. 4-star read. And then I read Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin, second book in the Serpent and Dove series. This started off a little slow for me. It did pick up towards the end, but there were some like things that I didn't love about this book, so I did give it a 3.5, but I am excited to see where Gods and Monsters goes, which is the third and final book in the trilogy. Because I do want to get to the duology that comes after this. So 3.5 stars. Those are all the books that I read that were in vlogs. So now I'm going to go through the books that I read that weren't, and we'll try to move through them as quickly as possible without wasting too much time, but to give you a rating and a general understanding of my thoughts and feelings on the books. The first one I read outside of a vlog was Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. Adored this book. I adored this series. I love how it wrapped it up. This is such a whimsical, fun time. Emily's story just is... It was beautifully written. The world was beautifully written. It was so unique, and it was the perfect, like, wintry, coming into spring fantasy read. Definitely, like I said, cozy. I gave this 4.5 stars. Can't talk too much about the plot because it will give away what happened in the first 2 books, but highly recommend this series, especially if you're not, like, super into high fantasy. You just kind of want that fantasy world feeling. And it is like a beautiful love story as well, so highly recommend. Then I read The Chamber of Secrets as a reread, second book in Harry Potter. I don't really think I need to talk too much about that. I am just doing this as a reread because I haven't read those books since I don't even know when, but it's been quite some time, and that was just a 4-star for me. Pretty much the books have just been 4-star reads for me. Back when I first read them, they were probably like what I would consider 5-star, but just my book tastes have changed in years and years and years. It's been probably over 10 years since I read the books the last time. Still enjoy them. They're still nostalgic for me, but they're not 5-star reads anymore. Then I read Wildside by Elsie Silver, which is the third book in her Rose Hill series. And this follows Reese and Tabitha, and it is like a marriage of convenience and reluctant kind of marriage of convenience, because like they do it because they know it's the best thing to do for their situation, but they have like a little bit of like a weird relationship, and I just loved this couple. Favorite book in the series so far, probably my favorite Elsie Silver book to date. I have not read the Gold Rush Ranch series, but I do plan on reading that at some point this year. However, out of the series so far, and I've loved the Rose Hill series, and I liked the Chestnut Spring series. There are 2 books that are very strong for me out of that series as well, but just like this whole book was just A+, perfectly done. I didn't want to put it down. I flew through it. 5-star read. Definitely my favorite Elsie Silver book to date. Oh, the couple in that was just like, Reese was the perfect amount of like caring and loving, but also like they teased each other to the point where it was just like the perfect relationship in my mind. Then I read The Years Between You by Miranda Melanie, and this is, I think this was like I don't want to even say second chance romance. This was about a girl who had always had feelings for her ex-boyfriend's older brother, even from when they were younger, and they just never had that chance, and then they run into each other like years later, and they both have feelings, and he's in a place now where he's open to a relationship. He was always like in a relationship when they knew each other when they were younger, and it's just kind of them coming to terms with their feelings for each other, and is it okay for them to date because she was with his brother and all that kind of stuff. Cute little small town, almost like a second chance romance, but I enjoyed it. 3.5-star read. Definitely one of the better books I got out of my romance reveal box, but I don't know that I'm going to hold on to this because I don't think I'll ever read it again. Then I read The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn series, and I'm so excited to read the final book in this little trilogy because I've loved this so far. This is my 3rd Brandon Sanderson book. I have not read many of them, but I'm planning on trying to make my way through his universe over the next year or so. And this, while it wasn't a 5-star read like the first book was, because it started off a little slow and I think there was a little bit of repetitiveness to it. I think it could have been a little bit shorter. The ending was so fast paced and so like shocking, and like the things, like there were so many twists and turns and you just didn't really know how it was going to end and who to trust and all of that. And I loved that. So 4.5 stars, still a very strong read, but I definitely think the first one just like hit a little bit harder for me. But I'm hoping that The Hero of Ages, which I think is the third one, I don't actually know. I think the third one's The Hero of Ages. That's the next one. I'm hoping that's another strong read and that it ends at this part of the Mistborn world, this part of this trilogy of it. I hope it ends it strongly. Then I read Nothing More to Tell by Karen M. McManus, and I have to remember what this one was. A lot of her books are like the same. So this was about a girl who's going back to the hometown that she grew up in, and I want to say it was like right when she was leaving or right after she left. No, it was right before she left, that her favorite teacher was found dead. And they didn't really know, like they thought it was just like a grifter going through the town that just like killed him randomly, but she's always kind of thought that something else happened because of like circumstances of that day and what she remembers and other people and just things that she remembers from that day. So when she comes back to town, she's like determined to get to the bottom of it. And she starts working for this podcast company and kind of convinces them to start looking into it, and then like terrible things start happening again, and it's just her trying to figure out what happened to him and why and what his secrets were and all of that. But it was very twisty turny. This is like a very good Karen McManus books. It had Good Girl's Guide to Murder vibes for sure, but I still really enjoyed this. 3.5 stars. I like her thrillers. They're very fast-paced, quick YA thrillers. And they do kind of have a nice little twist and turn. While I do see some of them coming, they still have some pretty good twists in there. Then I read Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This was my favorite Riley Sager book, I'm pretty sure, that I've read so far. He got me at the end. I did not see it coming. I had theories, I had ideas, I knew what the characters were, but like the way he ended it and like all of the ways he tied it together and like what it actually was, I didn't see that. So yeah, and I did like how this one was written. It was kind of Amityville horror style, where this family lived in this house that was like allegedly haunted, and they were there for like 20 days or something like that, and then on the 20th night they left in the middle of the night with no explanation and like never returned. And then he writes this book called like House of Horrors and details their time there and like all this stuff that happened. But the little girl was only 5, I think, when they left the house, so she doesn't have like full memories of what happened. She goes back to the house after she inherits it from her dad, and from there is like trying to figure things out and like learning about the people that were there at that time and like trying to get ideas of what happened and like looking at the house and reading and comparing it to the book and everything, and these weird things are starting to happen again. But I like how it's written because like every other chapter was a chapter from the book of the House of Horrors, and then the next chapter would be like current time, and then it would go back and forth. And I liked how that was written because you were seeing it from like what she was seeing versus like how her dad wrote it. So really enjoyed that. 4.25 stars. I don't know that it's my highest rated. I may have rated one like 4.5, like Middle of the Night might have been, which I really liked that one as well. But I don't know, there was just something about this book that really got me. Then I read Scorched Skies by E.J. Mello, and this was a arc that I got off NetGalley. It comes out, I think it's sometime in the beginning of April. I'll put the date on the screen as well as the cover. But this was a very interesting world about these two different like species of, I don't want to say they're fae. There's definitely fae that live like in the upper part of the world. They live on this like floating island and they have wings and stuff and they can fly. And then there's these like lesser people that live on the like regular part of the earth. And it's like forbidden for those two people to fall in love, get married, whatever, have children because of what they produce when they do that, when they mix the races. So that's like completely illegal. And anyone found living that is like a half each is just immediately executed. So at the beginning of the book, we're following our main character, Tanwyn, and she is one of these mixed people, and her father was the king's engineer up on the island land. I can't remember the names of the two different species, and fell in love obviously with a person from elsewhere, but he was not executed because the king didn't really want to like lose his talent, but he was exiled, and the king didn't know that he had children though. So at the beginning of the book, Tanwyn is like confronted by the crown prince about the location of this guy. And she's like, it's my dad. I'm not going to tell him where he is, blah, 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 blah. Well, then they try to leave. And as they're trying to leave, her dad and her brother get kidnapped by the crown prince and his like soldiers and are taken back up onto the island land. And then she goes up there to try to get him back. And as she's up there, she's interacting with the prince because he remembers her, and there's like an instant connection between them, but there's definitely like hatred on her side because of what he did to her and what he did to her family. So she's trying to come to terms with how she should feel about him versus how she does feel about him. And there's like all of these pieces of politics and everything that are going on about the king up there and what's acceptable and why these people are actually illegal, why they're not allowed to exist. Nobody really knows. Yada, yada, yada. So that's the basic premise of the book. And it is going to be a duology. I really enjoyed this. It started off a little slow for me, but about a third of the way through, like, it really picked up. I really got into, like, not only the romance side of it, but just, like, the actual politics of the world and, like, what was going on and what was the king scared of and all of that. So, very interesting. I'm excited to see where the next book goes based on how this one ended. 4 stars. Cannot wait. I think the second one comes out, like, in the fall, maybe. I think I looked it up. So, definitely going to be looking forward to finishing out that series. Then I read The Prisoner of Azkaban. So I was one reread behind. I did not do one in February. It was just too short of a month and I lost track of time. So then I read Prisoner of Azkaban, also 4 stars, 3rd book in the Harry Potter series. One of my favorites from childhood. Still really enjoyed it. Still probably going to be one of my favorites out of it, but still just kind of sat around a 4-star for me. So, hoping maybe once I get further along, they become a little bit more like adult. Right now, they're still reading very YA for me, which is fine, but I think that's why I can't give anything more than a 4-star. And then I finished out the month with Breakaway by Grace Riley. This will be in a vlog, but you won't see the vlog until the first week of April because it kind of bridged the week that went from March to April. I wanted a spicy sports romance, and this gave that, and that's what I wanted at that moment. That's why I picked this up. This was what I was in the mood for. I've been looking forward to reading this book for a while. It follows Penny and, what is his name? Cooper. And Cooper is a hockey player. He's a like star defenseman trying to be a captain, trying to go to the NHL when he's done with school. And Penny is the daughter of the coach, and she has like a sordid past, which you don't really find out too much about. There's like hints dropped. You don't really find out about exactly what happened till towards the end of the book, but she has trust issues. She has like intimacy issues because of things that have happened to her. And obviously, like, he's not supposed to date the coach's daughter, so they have to keep everything a secret, but they're not really dating. She has a list of experiences she wants to have with another person or like multiple other people to get her more comfortable with like intimacy and everything, and she asks Cooper to help her with that, at least with the first part of the list, and then there's an immediate retraction. They obviously, after the first hookup, decide they want more, even though he's like, I never hook up with someone more than once. It's a romance. We know how it's gonna end. This was very spicy. It was like 99% spice and 1% plot. There was a plot. It wasn't completely not, but there was a lot of spice. So just know that going in. That's what I wanted though, so that was fine with me when I was reading it. I don't shy away from spice, as long as it's consensual, because there were like kinks and stuff in this too, which doesn't bother me as long as it's consensual. So 3.5 stars. This is just a fun, good time series. I really enjoyed First Down. I enjoyed this, and then there's 2 more books, Stealing Home and Wicked Serve. And I really wanted to get to this now while it was still hockey season, even though it's the end, because I want to get to Stealing Home while it's baseball season. So that was the 23 books that I read this month. Let me know your thoughts on any of these books. Let me know what you think. Have you read any of them? Do you want to read them? Or any of these books, because a lot of them were in series, any of those series that you want to read? What was your favorite book that you read in March? Let me know in the comments. Let me know why. Good, bad, ugly. I don't care what your comments are on the books. I love to see what people think. We all have our own opinions on things, and I love that. And I love that about the reading community. So just let me know if you have any comments. And I thank you so much if you've made it this far for watching, and hope to see you all in the next video.